Hi, Carole Herder here, and we're going to talk today about laminitis. Healing laminitis through the horse's own hoof mechanism and the function of the hoof. And that means that we're going to have to understand hoof function. And so I've got a couple of videos and some diagrams to show you. The reason for understanding hoof function is because that's the way we're going to be able to prevent it, to prevent laminitis. And make no mistake, laminitis is a serious disease and it can be fatal, and it certainly can be painful. So prevention is key, and we can only prevent with understanding. There is some reason to believe that we can also cure it once it does happen. So take heart. And that's the reason we say it's not for the faint of heart, because it is very painful. You may have seen the first session in this video, this series of laminitis, and we compared it to the ripping of Velcro. So the lamina rip apart, but this is live tissue, so it could be very painful, or like a nail ripping away, but sort of on steroids. So super painful, not something you want to have to experience with your horse. So understanding and knowledge is power. But I'd just like to show you this video. So this is done by the Swedish Hoof School, and it's a hydraulic press. So it's a cross section of the hoof, and it's emulating what happens when the hoof bears weight. And you can see the frog area here is making contact with the ground. The heels are spreading from side to side, and the bone column is descending. Now, this whole pumping action allows blood to flow and circulate. And of course, blood has oxygen and nutrients in it, which prevent or alleviate a lot of the conditions that our horses can be plagued with. So you really want that natural hoof mechanism functioning. So colored water, hydraulic press, cross section of the hoof, pushing down about 1,000 pounds of weight. And in this next section here, there's an additional 200 pounds applied to the hydraulic press. And this is the approximate weight of rider and tack. And so when you get this additional weight on the horse's back, of course, it leverages into the horse's foot. And, you can see that the frog is making more ground contact. You can see that the hoof is spreading out even more. So this is what happens. You can see the weight-bearing arrow, the big arrow coming down. You can see that the weight disperses from side to side, the heels spread apart. The frog makes contact with the ground. Now, you may have heard it said that the horse has 5 hearts. What that refers to is the frog's pumping action. So when it makes contact with the ground, it has a couple of functions. One is to spread the heels apart so that the bone column has somewhere to go. Secondly, it pumps the blood into all the coriums and tissues of the hoof. And this completes the circulatory system. So it pumps blood through all the tissues, oxygenating it, providing nutrients, and then back up into the heart, into the circulatory system, so that it can circulate and heal any of the conditions that may be lingering there, or anything that might come. As long as you've got blood circulation, proper movement, circulation, you're going to alleviate a lot of problems. And we're not just talking about laminitis, like navicular disease, pedal osteitis, lots of things that horses are plagued with. So you need to have an understanding of that blood pumping action. Now, the traditional treatment is something we do need to discuss, because when metal is nailed into the horse's hoof, the hoof is in its smallest, most contracted form. And so it can't it's in the air, it's not bearing weight, and it's not spread to its biggest position. And then it's clamped in that contracted form. So when the weight of the horse comes down, it can't really spread. The frog isn't making contact with the ground, although the shoe is open at the back there, it's still, the shoe raises the entire hoof off the ground. So it makes it difficult for the frog to make contact with the ground and pump that blood into all the tissue and back up into the heart. So you're decreasing blood circulation. And then thirdly, if you take a metal shoe and bang it against a hard surface, you will see that it causes a vibration up your structure. So we're causing a vibration up the horse's structure rather than an absorption of shock. And this tissue vibration at a trot on a hard surface can be 800 hertz frequency, which has been proven to be enough to annihilate live tissue. Now, there are some other alternatives like a plastic shoe, but you're still nailing on. So those nails can also cause a vibration up the structure and to some degree clamp and certainly lift the frog off the ground. So that may not be a good option either. It's a trick question. Which hoof has the metal shoe attached? Yeah, the blue one. Because the blood's not circulating all the way down to all the coriums, the tissues, keeping it healthy, keeping it sound. Just another diagram by the Glass Horse Project showing you exactly how much blood is circulating in the lower extremities. I remember thinking that it was sort of dead tissue down there, and that's not the case at all. So you want it live and circulating and vibrant and full of energy and oxygen and nutrients. Now, this is the horse's natural environment. And remember that horses have been on the planet for 50 million years. That's 50 million years. So that little hoof is not a design flaw, but we've messed with it in a way, in our attempt to improve, of course. But that little hoof, when it's functioning properly, provides blood circulation, movement, self-trimming. Like this is a natural environment for a horse to be in. Hard, aggressive, arid ground, so that when that hoof makes contact with the ground acts as a counter effect of a flat surface and helps spread those heels apart, spread those hoofs apart. And that's why it's quite important to have a flat surface. And, that's why we designed our Cavallo boots the way we have, because there's a counter effect so that the hoofs can pump blood. Now, this is a horse's natural terrain, not this. Sometimes we have to keep horses confined for sure. And lots of us don't have, hundreds of acres, never mind tens of acres. Like I've got 5. So we don't have that kind of space for horses to run around like that previous graphic here. So we do confine them, but they're not places to store your horse. So you may have to confine from time to time, but don't store your horse in a place like this. Again, natural environment, they would run around, 20, 30 miles a day, foraging for food, running with the herd, doing that whole pumping action of the hoof. Not this. This picture just depicts so much for me because this horse is confined and he looks very sad. So how can we affect this so that pull the shoes off, keep your horse barefoot, and move him? So as it turns out, when a horse is standing in a wide open field like a paddock, he stands there and he looks around. But when he's provided with a corridor or somewhere to move along, he'll move along it because they're very curious, aren't they? So the way you can deal with a small environment, a small farm, is create a fence inside a fence so that you're building a corridor, and you can put, you can move the food around, you can create different grounds, you can, especially if you've got a couple of horses, they'll push each other along this corridor. So it's not that hard to do. And the fence doesn't have to be really solid. I mean, you want the outside fence solid, but the inside fence could be just, a Baco wire or something. So this is the idea, you provide some shade, you provide some, I really like filling water, overflowing water in a place where they have to drink. And then for a while they're standing in hydration, in mud or water, and they're hydrating their hoofs. This is a natural function. When horses go to hydrate in the wild, they go and stand in a river or stand in a lake or a creek bed. And not only are they hydrating internally, but they're hydrating their hoofs. And of course, feeding them water in buckets doesn't serve that purpose. So we're trying to emulate what happens in a wild horse environment, so we can get that hoof functioning as it's been functioning for 50 million years. Not a design flaw, just needs a little help in our domestic environment. So, here's some other ideas for you, put a fence inside a fence, push them along, have a boggy area, have a mineral area, a salt area, a water trough, fence inside a fence. Pretty simple, right? Now, here's some river rock gravel, which we have found very beneficial. When I first moved to my ranch here, I got the neighborhood kids to come and remove all the rocks. I paid them $5 a wheelbarrow to remove all the rocks, and made the ground nice and soft and grassy and beautiful. And if I knew then what I knew now, I could have saved myself thousands of dollars, really, because I ended up bringing truckloads of gravel back into my terrain. Now, you don't want to have it too small so that it goes up the wet line, but this is about the size that I like. And oops, let me go back. So, we just loaded a bunch of gravel back in certain areas. Like, they can skirt around, but in some areas they do have to walk on that gravel. I mean, I've segregated it, so making sure that the horse's hoof is comfortable enough to manage this and not in a transition stage. But, this is very beneficial to stimulating the sole area, increasing blood circulation, toughening the hoof. And many of you know Greg working the tractor there. So it's nice to have an Aussie on hand to spread all the gravel. He's very handy. And so Cavallo boots, I just, we're going to end this right away, but I just want to say our Cavallo boots come in, ponies to drafts. And when you put that additional pounds, remember the video with the hydraulic press, when you put the additional 200 pounds of body weight and tack on that horse, the sole is going in, and that sole has conditioned to the living environment. When you put the extra weight and you ride your horse on terrain that he's not accustomed to, yes, your domestic horse needs protection, but it does not come in the form of nailing metal onto their feet. It comes in the form of Cavallo boots. I'm going to say every time you buy a pair of Cavallo boots, you're helping us support one of these fabulous organizations. We give a lot. We give, we're a good corporate citizen, and we give. When you want to buy a pair of boots, you measure after a fresh trim. So you measure the widest part of the hoof and you measure length. You can send us a picture. You can send us a diagram. We want to get you in the right size. Boots come in wide and narrow soles. And this is our team. This is our team here. So every time you call us, and do call on our toll-free number in North America, toll-free, or shoot us an email, you're going to get one of these lovely people. And we're all horse people, and we all have lots of experience with boots, and we all have a lot of passion for what we do at Cavallo. So, give us a call and let us help you get into the right boot for your horse so that your horse is fully protected and the hoof is functioning as it should to alleviate any conditions that may be plaguing that horse. A free gift. Here's a download for, download cavallo-inc.com free gift, which is a barefoot trim manual that I wrote with a special friend of mine who was a farrier for 30 years. And now he just trims, and he's the meaningful man for laminitis issues in Northern California. So he knows a lot. You know, this is a trim manual with a DVD accompanying it that you can download. It's not enough to teach you how to trim, but it will sure give you some basics and guidelines so that you can understand what it is that your trimmer is doing. And then, of course, 2 books I've written. There's No Horseshoes in Heaven, which is a more philosophical book about your relationship with your horse. And secondly, Hoof Prints on the Journey, which is more hands-on, practical, how to keep your horse, a little bit more about that paddock paradise I was telling you about, a little bit more about how you can keep your horse natural to alleviate a lot of the conditions that our horses are plagued with. In the 3rd series, we're going to get into a little bit more of the science. So stay tuned for that. And do sign up and subscribe to our newsletter, please. We won't plague you with emails, but it's a fun newsletter, and Jenny makes it up, and you know, it's lots of other horse people like us talking about their experiences, and there's some funny stories and some heartwarming stories, and you know, it's just fun, and then there's lots of news about our industry, and you'd be the first to know about promos and new products and that kind of thing. So please do sign up. And stay tuned for session 3 in the Laminitis series. And thank you so much for your time today. Bye.